All right, hello everybody. Welcome to another Neuro Fundamentals, where today we are going to be looking at some nerve tensioning exercises. These are going to be in the lower limbs, and just like most of the other weeks, we're going to be looking at just one nerve in particular and how it relates to all of the other systems in our body, in particular, how it affects how we breathe, how it affects how we balance, how it affects the musculature, proprioception, everything in our leg, as well as in other parts of our body. And finally, how it can even affect our vision. So there are a lot of things that sound maybe unlikely. This is one that I didn't really have planned to do, but in the last few weeks, there's been so many people who have been finding nerve tensioning exercises in their programs, particularly in the lower limbs, that they find it really hard to feel the correct sensation. So I thought I would break it down in what is, I guess, considered the most difficult one, the tibial nerve. So we're going to be looking at the tibial nerve. It's a large nerve that kind of comes all the way down from the sciatic nerve, all the way from the inside quad to the back of the calf to along the sole of the foot. So as you may guess, it plays a huge role in balance. If you're not able to move your quads, if you're not able to move your calves, if you're not able to move your big toe, you're going to find it's going to be a really hard time balancing. Similarly, sensation on the bottom of your foot, if you can't feel what the surface of the ground is like, that information doesn't get to your brain. The brain has to start making up its best guesses, and that is going to affect your balance somewhat considerably. So we're going to be looking at, first of all, how we can tension that nerve correctly, because when people try this, usually there's a number of different restrictions and blockages that come up. So we'll talk through troubleshooting some of those things, and then we will talk through linking it into all of the other systems of the body, like we mentioned. So we're not going to start with breathing today, because breathing actually will have some big effects on the spinal cord. And I'd like to make sure everybody's familiar with the tensioning sequence, familiar with the exercise first. So if that's all good, let's get started. I'm going to shift myself right back, and let's just drop the camera down a little bit. Okay, so for tibial nerve tensioning, we're going to be doing a tensioning sequence involving a straight leg, and you're going to need to be sitting in a chair all the way up to the edge. Okay, so you want to have quite a bit of space for your legs. If you're sitting all the way back in your chair, you're not going to be able to straighten your leg out to reach the floor. Now, depending on your level of flexibility, there'll be a few variations that you might need to try to make this work, but I'm going to show you the standard way first. And at the very least, I'm expecting everybody's going to feel some kind of stretch or some kind of nervy sensation, even if it isn't the stretch or nervy sensation that we want. And because I'm just aware I've got massive holes in my socks, I'm going to take them right off and pretend it's because I want you to be able to see much better what's going on. So, tibial nerve tensioning. This is the sequence. We are going to start sitting at the edge of your chair. You're going to straighten your leg. You're going to flex, or well, we're going to extend the foot as back as far as you can. Some people might call this flexing the feet if you're into kind of circus, any kind of performance. And once they're back, you're going to want to try and pull your toes back as well. So if you can see there, I'm not just pulling my foot back, I'm actually trying to pull my toes back as far as I can as well. From there, we're going to evert the foot. That means almost like if we were standing up, it would be like rolling in on our ankles. So I'm going to turn this way. So not rolling in, it's going to be rolling out. Just to make that clear, it's obviously you've got much less range of motion there, so it can be a little hard to see. So try to make sure we're holding all these things at the same time. So far it's straight leg, foot extended back, toes pulled back, hopefully keeping them pulled back. And we're going into that foot eversion, so the ankle is rolling in. From here, you're going to internally rotate. So your whole foot your whole leg is going to roll in towards your body just a little bit. And then you're going to jump your leg very slightly towards the middle of your body. So it's jumping towards the next leg. Okay. From there, you're going to slump in your upper spine, and then you're going to fold in your lower spine. We'll just come in and out of that a few times because, as I said, that's a lot of things to remember. Sometimes it takes a few goes of getting in and out of it just before you remember the sequence, let alone you try and figure out what you're supposed to be feeling. And as you might have noticed, if you got the sequence right, it can be quite uncomfortable when you lean into it. So we're just going to go in and out 3 or 4 times. So again, it's going to be sitting on the edge of your chair. You're going to straighten that leg. Other leg, doesn't matter what you're doing for now. You're going to extend the foot. So that's pull it back towards you or flex the foot, we can call it if you're into circus training. Your toes are going to pull back towards your face as far as you can. You're then going to internally rotate. So you're going to roll your foot and your whole leg. So even my knee is rotating towards the middle. I'm going to jump my leg across. And again, doesn't have to be very much, can be just very slightly. From there, slump in the upper spine and then hinge. So now at my hips, almost like I'm trying to get my belly button down to the floor. And at some point in that sequence, it might have already come on when you're just straightening the leg. You're going to feel either some kind of really strong muscle stretch, or better yet, you're going to feel some kind of nervy stretch. If you're not sure the difference between the two, nervy is always going to be a more light feeling. So with the muscle stretch, you'll usually feel a very definite kind of thick pulling sensation. With the nerve stretch, it's going to be more burny, electrically. It feels like it's more on the surface and a little bit more intense or extreme. I'll go through that sequence one more time, then we'll talk about what we should be feeling. So we're going one more time. We're going to straighten the leg. We're going to extend the foot back and curl your toes back towards your face. From there, you're going to internally rotate the leg. You're going to do a small jump towards the middle. So you're going to adduct, and then you're going to slump in your upper spine and your lower spine. Now you're going to hinge in your hips. So your belly button is trying to reach towards the floor. If you remembered all that, then congratulations, you've done the motion. Now we want to talk about what should this actually feel like and what kind of adjustments should I be making? Because really in all of these steps, there are changes that we can make that is going to put stretch in different muscles that will allow the nerve to be pulled in different ways. So when you're doing this nerve tensioning, really the main thing that you should be feeling is some kind of nervy sensation along the sole of the foot. Okay, so it should be mostly here that you're feeling all of the sensation. Apologies for those who was really hoping it was something in your calf or something up here in your hip. Definitely we want it down, lower down. So what can we do if we are not feeling that? So let's take it joint by joint and just talk about how we can change our position to change the sensation. Number one, if you're feeling a lot of pain in your hip, it actually might be a good idea to raise yourself higher up. Okay, now luckily for me, I was already pretty low. If you don't have a chair that can do this, you might need to get creative. You might need to be going on the end of a sofa. You might need to be sticking a box up or anything like that, or going to the edge of your stairs carefully without falling over and trying it there. But literally just with that one change, actually you can put a little bit less tension up where the sciatic nerve is, and that can help quite a lot as well. So the same thing, we just go straighten the leg, extend the foot, pull the toes back, internally rotate, jump across, reach forwards, and have a test. Do you feel it more along the sole of the foot, or do you feel it more somewhere else? And for me, actually, I feel this one more in my calf. So what I might do is holding this position, I might jump myself down and see at which point do I feel it lowest down towards my foot. And I think for me, That's going to be, yeah, right about here. Okay. Now, if you're the opposite, if you already know you're massively flexible, so we've got a lot of super flexible people, especially on just the membership group. If you're super flexible, there's a good chance that actually this isn't going to be enough tension at all at this level, in which case I would recommend you lift the leg up higher. Okay, so you can find whatever height it needs to be. If you're a contortionist, actually elevated above your own belly button might not be so ridiculous or crazy, but changing the leg is number one of what we can do. And remember, the goal is feeling the sensation along the bottom of your foot. Second thing we can do is play with the knee. So really, in terms of the knee, there's only bending it or straightening it. And for some people, if they've got really tight calves, really tight hamstrings, you may find that a slight bend in the knee and then going much more extreme into all of the other positions actually at this point increases your ability to feel it on the sole of the foot. So I'll just say that once, because if your leg's already straight, really the only way you can go is bent. Beyond a slight bend, there's not really any huge advantage as far as I know of. Feel free to play with a giant bend and see, does that do anything? I find completely straight or pretty much straight but not locked out are your two options for the knee. Now we'll move down to the ankle. So the two things the ankle can be doing is the eversion and the flexion. So this is the one that probably has the most wiggle room to play around with in terms of the holding position. You are free to evert less and extend less if you want. And again, anything you're doing less on one side, if you want to be getting maximum tension, you're probably going to want to be doing more of each of these other ones. So then when I slump, I'm going to slump a bit more. Actually, already I'm starting to feel that along the sole of my foot. And then I'm going to fold further. And again, that's just not right for me. I think this standard version, maybe it's because while I'm talking, I keep going into different positions. But yeah, this seems to be working pretty good for me. But playing just with slight tweaks of the ankle can help. Finally, we've got the toes. So with the toes, pulling them back, the more they are pulled back, usually the easier it is to feel this. And annoyingly, the more you've extended your foot, the harder it's going to be to actually pull those toes back. So what I would normally recommend is to get a resistance band. And very helpfully, I didn't bring one up with me. So we're going to improvise. We're going to use a tie. And pretty much you can use anything that you can wrap around your toes, make sure they're around the tops of all the toes, and then you're going to use that to help you pull your toes back so that once your leg is straight, you're internally rotated, your ankle's everted, you pulled across, you're able to add a little bit more toe extension as you lean forward. What you will probably find is if you're pulling your toes further back successfully, you need to do very little upper chest slump and very little leaning to find that sensation. Then finally, we've got the internal and external rotation. For some people, actually, external rotation does the trick, okay? So while I say internal rotation, that is normally what it should be. That's normally what will get you there. For some people, external rotation, still adduction, that is going to get you the sensation, and it just kind of depends, position of your hips, tightness of different muscles. It could be anything. It's another one to play with. Try it externally rotated, try it internally rotated. For the adduction, really it's just, again, another case of minor tweaking. Now, once you've kind of got a sensation as low as you can possibly get it to go, as low as you can find, so even if it's not down to your feet yet, the place where we'll get the real difference is now we're going to add this little slump, we're going to do this little extension, and now we're going to start playing with different positions of our spine, okay? So given that everybody has different postures, given that on almost all MRIs of people's spines, especially as they get older, we start to see all kinds of different twists and shapes. it stands to reason that different shapes are going to be appropriate for different people to put their legs under tension. Okay, and we'll talk about that a little bit when we get to the breathing section next on how this is affecting the spinal cord. So you're going to start. You're going to do your slump. You're going to lean forwards a little bit, and then maybe if you're feeling it in your calf, if you're feeling it near the ankles but not quite on the sole of the foot, the first thing I want you to do is to start playing with rotation of the spine. And you're just going to see, does rotating the spine actually increase or decrease the sensation that you can feel on your foot, or does it raise or lower the sensation you're getting in your ankle? For a lot of you, one of these directions is going to greatly improve it. The second thing you're going to do, so if you found something there, you're going to hold the position where you feel it more, where you want it. If you didn't find anything, back to neutral. And you're going to now start tilting laterally, okay? So you're gonna, just to show what it looks like, it's shoulder down to the hip, shoulder down to the hip. We're doing that tilt in the full tension position. So lateral tilt, either side. Okay, the final thing we're going to do, now we could just add more hip flexion, but given that you've probably already tried to raise your foot up, that's essentially going to be doing the same thing. The next thing we're going to do is actually try it out in the head as well. So in this version, we're now going to tuck your head in and lift it up and see if with your head tucked in, does rotation help? Does tilting help? Or does neck rotation help? So now your head is tucked and you're rotating your neck side to side. And I can tell you, I'm still feeling this on the sole of my foot, but I'm actually feeling it a little nervy from the inside of my calf to the outside of my calf, depending on what I do. As long as I've got that sole of the foot sensation though, that is what I want. So we're just going to relax out. We're just going to try one more time getting into it, and you're just going to make your best guess at what brings this sensation down the lowest, okay? And if you can't get it all the way to the sole of your feet just yet, don't worry for now. Keep trying out the exercise with the other exercises that we're going to do. Sometimes it does just take some muscles to relax, especially if you're not feeling anything nervy, you're just feeling muscle stretch. A lot of the time when you can relax that muscle a bit, when you can sort of loosen it off, you can then start to feel the stretch in the right place. And for some of you, if you're very used to always being in socks and shoes all the time, you might actually find that your sole of your foot is just not used to feeling that kind of strong sensation at all. And so you might be doing everything perfectly well, it's just not registering yet. So for some of you, actually, you just need to get the reps in, and eventually you start feeling that sensation on the sole of the foot. But anyway, we're going to go one more time. So it's straight leg, extend the foot, pull the toes back towards you. You're going to evert the ankle, so rolling in. You're going to adduct, so you're going to bring your leg across your body. You're going to internally rotate. Ooh, did that in the wrong order. Hopefully that doesn't make a difference. Slumping your chest, you're going to lean forwards and see, can you feel that nervy sensation? And for me, the doing in that different order did actually make a difference. So that's another thing that I forgot to mention that I probably should have, is for some of you, the order is actually going to matter. And this is the order I normally do things in because it's easiest, but also, I guess, because it works for me. You may want to try playing with trying different things first. So it could be flex the toes first, extend the ankle. You might then go to the straight leg internal rotation, then do the adduction, or you might do the whole thing from the slumped position and then actually straighten your leg out, extend, evert the foot, internally rotate and jump across. For me, that did absolutely nothing at all. I might talk a little bit about why that might be the case, but interesting to know. So you've got a ton of stuff to play with and not enough time in this session to play with it. So we're gonna shelve that and we're going to move it on a little bit. So the next thing that we want to talk about when we're doing these kind of nerve tensioning drills is how we can use breath to increase or decrease the tension in the nerve. So sometimes you might find you can get a nervy stretch and then moving around in that position isn't really doing anything. But what you can do is to play with how much stretch the spinal cord is in. Okay, so when we're thinking about nerve tensioning exercises, it's helpful to think of the nerve not just as the one nerve. So I'm talking about the tibial nerve here, and that, like I said, is one specific branch that deals with a certain number of muscles and a certain layer of sensation in the body. But actually, as far as the brain is concerned, there's really just one nerve. It goes the whole way from your spinal cord, it goes out to your arms, it goes all the way down, out to your legs, and it just branches off into different bits that we gave individual names to. And I think I mentioned this in one of the earliest Neuro fundamentals where we were looking at lunging patterns. Actually, you might find you find it really hard to lunge in a certain position just because that position puts the spinal cord under more tension than the other positions just because of the shape of the muscles. So the same works the other way around. In this version, we're going to see if we can add more tension onto one of these peripheral nerves by putting more or less stretch in the spinal cord. Okay, now traditionally, if I want to stretch my spinal cord, all I have to do is that second last step in the nerve tensioning exercise. All I've got to do if I want to put stretch on my spinal cord is slump over in my spine. If I make my spine round, given that the cord is on the back, not on the front, that is going to make it longer and longer. So it's going to stretch it out by as much as it can really go. And if I want to do the opposite, if I want to make the cord relax a bit and put some slack into it, then I'm going to arch my back. And again, because the spinal cord is on what is now going to be the inside of the curve, that means it's got much more wiggle room. It's got much more room to move. So one of the things that we can do to test that out is when we get into this position, so we're going to go back into the tensioning position. I'm going to start with my slump spine and I'm going to lean forwards. You should find by arching the back and then slumping again, that you can actually cause more tension with this forward slump, okay? It actually won't happen for everyone. Sometimes when you arch and the back muscles pull, then that can have a knock-on effect to the lower limbs. But for the majority of you, actually being in this forward position and then slumping down, you're going to get a much more intense stretch. Now, the other cool thing about this is if you want to play with this, you can literally work on inhales and exhales, okay? So if you want to hold this position and put tension in the spinal cord, what you can go for is really long exhales. So you're going to breathe in, and then you're just going to breathe out for a long time. So you've got no air left, and that is going to stretch the spinal cord further and further because the ribs are going to want to naturally be pushed back. The diaphragm is pulling up, and you're just clearing all the air out, which is promoting a more rounded back. And then if you wanted to put some slack on the spinal cord and you wanted to relax it, you could either hold this position or you could go into an arch and then inhale. So we're now going to play with putting slack on and off through the breath, okay? We're just going to do it 5 times. It's going to be exhale while leaning forward, then moving into an inhale, leaning back. And again, like I said, there will be a couple of you where this is working the opposite way around. Don't worry, you're not broken, but it may indicate that there is some tightness in some muscles in the lower back that we might want to look at and deal with. So if you're on any of our hybrid or remote training programs, send us a message. We can make some tweaks there and get it sorted out for you. So that's pretty much all we're going to look at in breathing. Sorry, I said we were going to do 3 to 4 breaths. Feel free to continue if I've just been sidetracked. The next thing we're going to look at is how this helps with our balance, okay? So I've been doing a lot of left-sided tibial nerve tensioning. I actually want to test out my right leg now just to see what is my balance like on my right leg. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to close my eyes, see how much rocking there is. Okay, cool, not bad. A little bit of a rock. Going to see if I can make that better or worse through some nerve tensioning. So as I said, we're going to be working a lot of muscles that run all the way down through our leg. We are going to probably see a knock-on effect on balance if we make those muscles stronger or weaker. And as well, if we improve our ability to feel sensation on the bottom of our foot, we get more accurate information up to the brain. So probably going to be experiencing some better balance. So we're going to test this out by getting into the tensioning position. One more time. Sorry, today's lesson is going to be quite boring. So I've gone in there, and now from here, the way I might want to drive this is with some kind of vestibular stimulus. So if I want my vestibular system to be paying attention to the sensory information coming from my foot, I'm going to slump the spine, I'm going to lean forwards, and then from there, I'm going to look at my thumb, and I'm going to try left and right, keeping my eyes fixed on the thumb, just to see what happens. So you can go as fast as you like, as long as you are keeping your thumb in picture. It doesn't want to go blurry, and it doesn't want to split into two. Now, again, if we want to add more flexion and relaxation of the spinal cord, we could also play with head up and down. So I'm going to get back into the position again, and this time I'm still pulling the toes back. I'm going to look at my thumb, and this time we're going to try up and down, just as fast as you can go. Again, you may or may not feel tension coming on and off. For me, I'm not really. I'm just feeling kind of waves moving up my leg. Or it could just be kind of burny and crampy, all possible options that might be going on. The important thing, though, is to find out, did that actually help my balance? So I'm going to stand up. I'm going to test it out and find out, does my balance get better or does it get worse when I'm putting tension on this? And that's also going to give me an idea of whether this is even a good exercise for me to do for the rest of my training. So we'll talk about that in just a second. Okay. Well, I don't know how this looks to the rest of you. Actually seemed more stable right at the very beginning, and it didn't seem to last very long. Okay, so that was with my eyes closed. Definitely felt super stable, super secure, but not lasting. So that's possibly a sign I have fatigued it a little bit too much. So if I was doing that next time, I'd probably do fewer reps and test it out. So final thing that we want to do is have a little play to see, can doing nerve tensioning affect our visual system? So I'm just going to move a little closer to you to chat through what we're going to look at here. So just like the vestibulo-ocular reflex, where we're trying to move left and right, what we're going to do now is we're going to try and trace a circle around with our fingers. And we want to see what is the smoothest circle we can do, where you can see your finger the whole time and find out what speed you can do it at. Okay, so you want to see what's the fastest you can go. This is about my top speed here. If I go any faster, I don't really feel like I've got a lock on it. And what we're going to do now is again go back to this nerve tensioning and see, can we actually improve how we feel or how our eyes move? Okay. So I'm going to take you back to this position. I'm going to go right side again. I'm going to extend in the foot, pull the toes back. I'm going to internally rotate, jump my foot in, slump in my spine, and lean forwards. Okay, and now what I want to test is different eye directions. I want to find out, does a certain particular eye direction cause any increase in the sensation that I'm feeling? Okay, so I'm first going to try left and right. Okay, and immediately I'm feeling that make a difference. Now, just to explain a little bit on how this works, given that your eyes are linked to a lot of spinal reflexes that make your spine want to rotate, that make your spine want to bend and flex, it is theoretically possible that by engaging those reflexes, the spinal cord will become more tense or more relaxed, depending on if it is in a direction that you find particularly threatening or relaxing. So we're going to test all the directions, not just up and down, because depending on what you've got going on, you might actually find it's one of the diagonals or horizontal where you feel the most difference in your sensation. I'm just going to reset this because I've lost it a bit from talking. Okay, so next we're going to try up and down. So I'm going to slump in the spinal cord. I'm going to lean forwards. And now I'm going to use my thumb this time. I'm just moving up and down. Yeah, and this can be as slow or as fast as you like. You just want to pay attention to wherever you're feeling the sensation. Does it increase, decrease, or stay the same and do nothing? If it stays the same, probably a good chance you won't see any difference in your eye circle after. Okay, I'm going to go back into this 2 more times. So this time we're going on a diagonal. So again, watching the finger. Again, doesn't need to be too far one way or the other. And then we'll try the other diagonal. All right, so for me, actually, I would say up and down was the winner. So if you found one that was more intense, that's the one you're going to do just for a little while. Then after you've done that, you're just going to add whatever else you can to add more stimulation to this. So we're going to try and relax the eyes a little bit, and we're just going to try and put a bit more tension on this bit of the cord so that it relaxes a little bit. So now our eyes will be free to move and not worrying our spine about engaging these reflexes. So any kind of direction from the spine, if you want, you can do any kind of motion from the leg. That could be bend and straighten, it could be rotate in and out, it could be curl the toes in and out. That one tends to be particularly difficult. And then we'll just bring it in and retest. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to look at those eye circles. And for me, much, much worse. Okay, so probably not surprising because I've been doing this for 30 minutes now, just putting different tensions onto the lower part of the spinal cord. That's going to add a lot of stretch. But testing that straight after, actually, that's a negative result. I did not find that comfortable at all. Again, it's something that maybe you might want to test on its own. So rather than doing all these in a group, you take just those eye positions and see does it help. But if it's making it worse, then I would imagine that a lot of flexibility training for me, a lot of things where I'm playing with my legs at full extension or where my ankles are moving quite significantly, actually might have a detrimental effect the whole way up the spine. Okay, and that's why it's always good to be testing these things, because it doesn't always make you better. So if you were trying that, your eye circles got much, much better, then I would say actually get yourself into a flexibility program that's going to work really, really well for you. If not, if it's like me, you probably have a bit of work to do before we end up getting there. So that's just another reason why this stuff can be good to play with. All right. I hope I explained that somewhat well. I feel like it was a little bit scattered in places, but I'm going to cut this one short at the 30-minute mark, just because I don't really recommend playing with nerve tensioning exercises for too much longer than that, especially, well, lower limb or upper limb, but lower limb when there's a lot more muscle groups going on, you can find that you end up getting quite tired quite quickly. So take it easy, relax for the rest of the day. And yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.